Okay, good day everyone. This is Nothing Conversations, and today I have with me Ben, an author of meditate and a teacher of meditation. I am a fan of his Udemy course, and it's really a very different approach on meditation. It's really you can check it out, and he also has some books on Amazon about meditation. And I would like to welcome Ben. How are you, Ben?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's nice to have you here in Nothing Interviews. Maybe we can start with a question of maybe you can tell us your story of, I don't know, what's the story of Ben? You can answer it in any way you like your seeking journey, your how everything unfolded until you became a meditation guide or teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Um, you could say I've always been a seeking person ever since I was born. So I kind of had that spiritual yearning ingrained in me from the beginning. And I was born into a Christian family. And so I started as a Christian. And, being a kid, I merely thought that, if there is a heaven and there is a hell, then sure, I'd like to hang out with the good guys. So that's kind of the extent of how deep it went. But it was a real, feel that I wanted to know more. And so it was the start of it all. And then, during my adolescent years, I kind of started playing a little bit with, the occult and doing different things, trying to learn how to go out of body and, all kinds of different things, reading about Buddhism, Hinduism. So I kind of dipped my toe into various things. And then as my life unfolded and I became like 20 something, I found a guy who's named Tom Campbell. I don't know if you've heard about him, but he's a physicist that is extremely well versed in traveling out of body, and he's kind of mapped out the entirety of how existence is organized, you could say, and written about that in a book named My Big Toe. And so in a year or so, I've suddenly found myself knowing too much to be a Christian anymore. I kind of understood what Jesus was talking about, but I couldn't agree with how the Christians interpreted his teachings. And so I had to let my childhood belief go and just, explore on my own, you could say. And so during the next, 4 years, maybe, I was really avid that's when I started meditating for real. I had been meditating before that as well, but that's when I started really trying to accomplish something with my meditation, to go really deep. And during this time, you could say, after 5 years or so, I suddenly realized that there was something called enlightenment that existed. And so that kind of made sense. I realized that, okay, that's what I'm supposed to look for. Well, not enlightenment, but the truth, big truth, fundamental truth. What is life? What is God? What is me? And so that kind of made the journey have a destination. Although what I found out is that there is no destination really at all, but that's how we begin. And so I started looking into who am I while I meditated, self-inquiry. And so for the next 5 years or so, I became completely obsessed with finding truth, finding out who I am, what this reality is. And I meditated up to like 6 hours a day. and I had my regular life, but as soon as I came home, I just laid down in bed and I just lay there, or I just sat in a chair and just watched inside me deeply, among other things, which we might talk about later. But during these 5 years, I had a bunch of various degrees of small awakenings, you could say, insights into how reality works and what's actually real, until it all culminated in one huge awakening that kind of emptied me completely, and just destroyed everything, destroyed who I thought I was, destroyed the entirety of this world, and just left me bare as the one I have always been before I started this life. And so that kind of changed everything, of course. And not too long after that, this is 10 years ago, by the way. So, I've been awake for 10 years now, and it has only gone deeper and deeper. And I've had multiple YouTube channels during this time. The first channels I had were really focused on enlightenment. But being me, I destroyed those channels after a few years because I just became fed up. I had like almost 2,000 subscribers on one of them, and I just deleted it. So yeah, that happened. But in 2014, I created a new channel, which is called Online Meditation Center, which is the channel I still have. And the focus there is to teach people how to meditate. Because what I realized is that meditation isn't actually an alternate state or something we have to produce in order to be silent. We already are silence. And then as thoughts well up in us, we start focusing on them, and we become stressed because of that. Not because we are stressed, we are actually pure silence. And so that online meditation channel was supposed to be a tool for people to learn how to meditate. And then I just started putting up some videos about enlightenment. I just thought I'd mention it to people, and then it turned out that that was the videos that people liked the most. And so that's why there's been so many videos about that. But yeah, that's a little about me.
No, I do feel like I'm, what do you call this? I feel like there are a lot of similarities to that story, and also mine. I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the most difficult struggle is the indoctrination of when you sin and you don't follow the Bible. There's a deity up there or a god that will send your soul to hell. It's the most difficult to break, even after after my 20s or maybe mid 20s, it's still there. Even up until recently, because it's a conditioning. A conditioning will not just shed off right away, but it's gonna appear and disappear sometimes, because the formative years has been a strong one. So
yeah, and it's like it's so ingrained in you when you've had it since birth, that when you're at that point where you have to say that I actually know too much to be constrained by this religious box, and you have to shed that belief, it's like dying in a little way, because you have to kind of, okay, maybe I get to hell, you don't know. So you have to kind of accept that in order for me to keep on growing, I will have to let those beliefs go. And so it can be a really intense decision, you could say, in order to let go of your childhood belief, because it's so stuck in us.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned earlier, one of the things that catalyzed is the video of yours that I saw, the video with the title a few words to new spiritual enlightenment seekers on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's very, I don't know. I posted it twice. I shared it maybe twice on my news feed, and I said, had I seen this 2 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten to many the spiritual grocery where the
Yeah.
spiritual marketplace where I was so constricted. I was so desperate to becoming something. And
Yeah.
in that video of yours, you mentioned that what in a nutshell what I got from there was, if it changes from here to there, that's not the ultimate truth.
Right.
If it's not, if it's something that you grasp, if it's something in the future, in the past, or it's not what you're looking for, something like that. Because
Yeah.
you covered even the new age, where if you're desiring to go to some planets or whatever, it's because it can be a trap. Maybe
Yeah.
we can talk about that later, because I've been in that trap a lot
Yeah.
of times. That
And you
trap.
could say there's nothing wrong with any of these things, but if it's truth that you're looking for, if you want to wake up to your fundamental being, to what you've been forever, then you can't cling to any ideas in the mind. And when it all comes to when it all comes to it, then everything that bubbles up in your mind is just a thought. So everything you believe about the world or yourself or anything are just voices in your head, and any voice in your head does not contain the ultimate truth, because it is always right here, right now. So that's, you can do whatever you want, but you probably won't find truth is if you cling to anything, any knowledge.
Yeah. That's actually one of the things that this is my theory. I think we all know that already, but sometimes it takes maybe that YouTube video to remind you of that. I
Yeah.
think the next question that I have is, we are thoughts arise effortlessly, right? When you go to
Mm-hmm.
a when you try do when you go deeper in meditation, you will notice that its thoughts are not something you produce with effort. It just comes and goes. But what about belief? Because we all have plethora. We all have different beliefs. But who is believing it? If there's no doer, if there's no doer of of life, and it's all one life force doing its play, then who is the believer? And that's one of my questions earlier in the path.
Yeah.
Let's use the word path. Like, I feel so lucky to have this kind of perspective, but it's not, it just dawned. Like, I was like, what about the murderers? I it, it I why did life do that? Why did
Yeah.
life play that character in that person? Those are my questions in the beginning. Maybe you
Yeah.
can share your your thoughts about
Yeah. And kind of what you've said now, the gist of it, how I would respond to that is that this is a perfect example of everything that bubbles up in the mind. Who's the doer? Why did life do this? How come this is that way? Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter, because this is just things that we get so hung up on thinking about, trying to find the answer to all of these questions. But the answers is not contained in the questions. Whether there's a doer or no doer, it doesn't matter. It's best to just let it go and be here now. So all questions are just thoughts in the mind. and that includes beliefs. They are really tough thoughts because it's like they're almost welded to our genetic makeup. But at the end of the day, they're simply just thoughts that we have, that we're clinging to, which is creating like a sense of identity. We're identifying with those thoughts and what they're saying, and we believe in them, but they're just noises in the mind. And so the most difficult thing about waking up is that we will have to be willing to let go of everything that we're thinking about. And our entire understanding of the world is contained within our thoughts. All the information that we've learned, both in school, from gurus and teachers, like we have knowledge about anything, everything, and all of this must be let go of. So it doesn't matter if you have free will or no free will, if there's a self or no self, it doesn't matter. It's just mental ideas. So the only thing you have to do is just be here now. Ignore the thoughts. Don't struggle with them. The thought bubbles up. Is there a doer or no doer? You just watch it, forget all about it, and just remain here. And then you watch deeply in this moment. Who is having this experience? What is having this experience? And don't ask it in words, in thoughts, because you're not looking for more thoughts that will answer it. You're looking for the experience of being who and what you are. And so that's why meditation is so important. And those fancy meditation, you don't need any fancy meditation. I'm simply talking about being still, being what you are. And then by simply being what you are silently for prolonged periods of time, you will get more and more acquainted to that which you are. And at one point or another, you might suddenly realize that all these thoughts, whatever they are saying, they are, as you said, just automatically bubbling up. And then I choose to either identify with them, think about them, take them seriously, laugh at them. It doesn't matter. They're just another sound. It's like birds chirping in the trees, but they're chirping inside your head, right? So it's just be here. So I'm not that interested in answering all these spiritual questions that seem so deep and serious to the seekers, because they're just keeping you away from the truth. And that's what I'm trying with my channel, is to just cut the bullshit, be here now, right? So yeah, doer, no doer, free will, no free will, who cares? Be in your experience.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very good.
It's a relief, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to think about it. You don't need the answer.
Yes. It is very, that's just straightforward. Just stop it. Just cut through it. I don't know if you have a specific, like, let's say a beginner in meditation. Like, what is your you have this course in Udemy where you break it down into 3 sections, like the beginner, and then there's the ones that are maybe practicing already, and there's the expert. And that's what I like about it. Like, what if I'm a beginner? Like, do some people say 20 minutes or 5 minutes, or do you have like a specific I don't know, recommendation to it, or do you just suggest that they find it on their own, or because to me, TM, transcendental meditation, it, because I have a very ADHD brain. So when I did TM, they give you the mantra and you go deeper, and then that's how I wrote my book. I wrote 10,000 words in 3 hours because
Wow.
after one, and it because the story of that is the publisher was looking for 10,000 more words because it would not be a book. without those words. It would just be a booklet. So I had a writer's block for 6 months, and then I went to a TM class. And then one TM class, Transcendental Meditation, I went home and I sat on my computer, and just suddenly, I was able to finish 10,000 words in less than 3 hours.
Yeah,
The
cool.
words just flow because maybe the mind was just quiet. It doesn't have like too much complexities.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have like a suggestion to a beginner meditator when it comes to that.
First of all, the beginner will have to decide for themselves how serious they are, you could say. How much do you want to focus on it? But I think it's optimal to begin slowly and with short periods. And so I think my course is pretty much sectioned and structured in a way that is optimal for a beginner. And so I would say a beginner could take like 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and either sit in a chair or lie in the bed with eyes closed, start there, and just use a mantra. Because a mantra, although we will stop using a mantra at one point, it's okay for the beginner because the beginner have a really hyperactive mind. And so being silent for even 15 seconds might be impossible. And so a mantra will make sure that your mind has something to do, which doesn't mean anything. It's just a meaningless sound that it repeats over and over. And so it just becomes something that doesn't take up any of your focus, you could say, but it keeps the thoughts from appearing. And so you just sit for 5 minutes, and if you're able to keep the mantra going and be here for 5 minutes, then that's great. So when you've done that and you've mastered that, then you can start doing it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I would say that when you're able to meditate with a mantra for half an hour, either sitting or lying down, then you could try to stop using a mantra. And the reason, and that's when we get to the second section of my course, the intermediate section, then we will stop using the mantra entirely. Because I don't want to be reliant on the mind in order to be silent, because that's just more noise. And so, but first we need to train ourselves to be silent. And so when you're feeling that you're efficient enough in using a mantra, and you can just sit down, start using the mantra, and you become silent, and you can do that for half an hour to an hour, then switch out the mantra and just be aware of your breath instead. And so you're just aware that you're breathing in and you're breathing out. And you just keep your awareness on that breathing and then you can, slow down or shorten the period again because you're switched up and you're using something new. So then you can do that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour. And so once you manage to meditate by only being aware of your breath for as long as you want, then you can switch out the breath as well, because ultimately we do not want to be reliant upon any technique or focus point in order to meditate, because it is what you are. And so the point after being aware of the breath or aware of any anchor point is simply being aware that you exist. And so you're using the mere awareness of I exist as your mantra, you could say, but that's not a mantra, it's just you being yourself. And so that's the expert section. And of course, during this entire progression, we will try to meditate in various different situations. Like you meditate while you do the dishes, brushing your teeth, vacuuming the floor, and then you start meditating outside, first sitting someplace in the woods where it's silent, and then later on in the middle of the city where there's a lot of people and cars driving by, and there's a lot of noise, and it's really hard to meditate, and you're just going to sit on a bench and be aware either of your breath or that you exist for, say, an hour, And sitting in a huge noisy city for an hour and not in broken meditation, that's difficult. And so we will gradually make it more and more difficult, because the end point for me is to be aware and in meditation 24/7. Of course, most people won't want to go there. For most people, it's enough to just be able to sit down and meditate for 15 minutes a couple of times a week. But you can take it how far you want. And of course, if you're able to bring meditation into most aspects of your life, then your entire life will change. It will be something you couldn't even imagine. So I think I answered your question.
Yeah. It's like, the way I see it, it's like you don't life becomes your meditation. Like
Yes.
life, it doesn't give you like, because what the thought that's coming is, the mind can trick us into thinking that it has liberated itself, but the self-deceptive tool of the mind, where
Yeah.
it's gonna trick you to think that you're attaining something other than here. But I think what you just said is like, meditation is the tool where it just, perhaps I think it's removing the blur of the present moment. It's removing
Yes.
the distractions, maybe.
Yeah, that was a great way to say it, removing the blur, because all the noise in the mind is just blurring. It's blurring everything we experience. It's like we have really crispy sense perceptions, really, but then they are all filtered through our mind, through what we think about what's happening. Like when I'm seeing a glass like this, my mind might say, this is made of glass, it's circular, I bought it at that store. You got all these concepts about that thing, and we're watching the world through those concepts, everything we're doing, and that creates that blur. And so by becoming silent and just being here now without associations to anything else, you remove the blur and everything becomes crispy and intensely immediate. It's like when you're living through the thoughts, you're playing a third-person game where you're seeing your character and you're playing it from above. But when you remove the thoughts, it becomes first person in a way.
That's nice. That's a good way to put it. It's really, I don't know. Yeah, like some people might not really be into meditation, but it doesn't have to be like how the monks do it. I think that's something that I like about your course. It's something that, what do you call this? It's applicable to modern, because this is at the age of technology. This is the age of modern. Everybody's into their phones. Everybody's into the TV, and there's information overload. There's a lot of information. I don't know. I feel like asking you about the breaking point of religion,
Yeah.
because to me that was the most difficult breaking point, until I went to a mindfulness self-compassion training, you know and then the facilitator mentioned the word experiencer, and then asked the question, what if there's no agenda? What if life has no agenda? That opened a crack to the
Yeah.
indoctrination. And then I started asking people, and the question I have is, can you prove to me that hell is not a place where you burn? That's because it's real in my brain when I was a kid. So I asked different perspectives, and until
Yeah.
somebody took a piece of paper, and then if this is God, and I tear, you're a part of God, and I tear you and I put you to hell, what will happen to him? Something like that. And then it's an opening until, I don't know if, what about yours? How did religion?
We can look at that from multiple perspectives. The first, if I'm just gonna play by your rules, you could say, we could say that everything is God. Everything existent in existence is God. Everything is life. Nothing can be separate from that which is it all. And so if hell exists, it would already be God. So hell couldn't exist separate from God. And that says something about hell. It probably won't exist. I would say that if there is any hell, then it's the thought stress that we're putting ourselves through every day. But that's it. That's okay. If hell exists, then that's already a part of existence. But this is just playing with words. I would rather say, where is hell? If you look at it right now, where is hell? It's a thought. Hell is a place where you burn. Okay, what's that? That's words in my mind. And what does your direct experience tell you right now? If you look into yourself wordlessly, what do you see? You see peace, silence, joy. And then another thought comes, hell is a place where I burn. What does that even mean? And I think that if we take it back to Jesus, then I think he was realized, he was awake, and he was speaking to people from his awake state. But people not being awake didn't know how to interpret what he said. And so almost everything that is said has been misinterpreted by people who do not understand what he's saying. And so I think he simply meant that hell is the stress that we put onto ourselves, because we have to see what he said, that heaven is all among us, all between us. I only know these words in Norwegian, so I have to kind of clunkily translate them, But he said a lot of things. For example, I and the Father am one. And that didn't mean that he was like God's special son and he was one with God. No, he was talking about everyone. I am one with the Father, with God. We are all that. He even said that you are gods, talking about us. And I think he said that I am closer to you than the breath in your nose. And that's obviously speaking not about the person Jesus, but life, right? The awakeness, that which you realize when you go deep enough. Truth, speaking from the point of God, not a person God, not a big man with gray beard sitting there controlling, but God as the life force. It's already here and it's what I am. And so I can read the Bible now and I can sit and nod and say, yes, that's right to almost everything he said. But then I don't interpret it the way that the Christian belief does, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a misunderstanding. And then they created a religion out of him when he tried to say, it's you. You're already it. And so I think he just used hell as a way to symbolize the mess that we're creating already. Because I think it said somewhere that hell is the separation from God. And if you're living transfixed in your mind and you're stressing from this thing to that thing and stressing about the future and things you don't want and all of that, that's being separated from God because you're not aware right now of the perfectness of this moment. And so I think all of this is just a misunderstanding that happened way, way, way long ago. And since people aren't awake, they keep on misunderstanding.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of clarity in that, and I think that's how my childhood suffered, in that not questioning what was brought down. And then, yeah, you mentioned it very clear, and how the teachings were distorted when hell is just the grasping of the the next moment, because you're not satisfied with presence of the now, something like that.
Yeah.
I And then, what about, because to me, after religion, I ventured into more different. There's no right and wrong. It's just the journey of how the seeker's path went to. I went to ayahuasca. I went to psychedelics, and
Yeah.
it was a beautiful experience to share with you. My hands were and like some of the participants, they saw like extraterrestrial beings and angels, and then some people had the flashback of memory of their childhood and stuff. But to me, my hands were just dancing, and it was my first time looking eye to eye with everybody without being awkward. I just feel
Yeah.
so contented with who I am without having the need to do anything. That was
Mm.
that was the psychedelic. But it's and I went to New Age, many spiritual circles, and I treated it as gospel. I I thought, like what you were saying earlier, astral projection, opening the third eye, all the dimensions, all the archangels I need to talk to them. Those things, I don't know if you also had that kind of that length of in your journey, in your seeking, in your path. Did you also go to that to explore in those realms?
Yeah, sure. And existence is huge, right?
Yeah.
But you could say there's a difference between the spiritual path and enlightenment, because enlightenment simply means waking up to what you are, to what everything is. But there's no doubt that there exists an unknown number of various, you could call it, dimensions and realities, and this one is just one of them. And when you're dreaming at night, there's a bunch of different other ones. So existence is huge, but there's only one ground of existence that is spawning all of this. We could call it consciousness. There's one consciousness, and then it has the I don't find a word right now, but it is capable of spawning an unlimited number of realities, and it's no problem. The thing is that none of the realities are actually fundamentally real, even though we experience them as solid. While we're having the experience, it's not actually solid. It's just a dream. It's created by dream stuff, you could say. And so visiting other realities and other dimensions and talking to beings and whatever, it doesn't matter. All of that is possible. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, eating different flavored food. But waking up simply means to wake up to what has always been and what will never change. What is it that cannot die, will not be born? It's always here. And so once that is realized, you are at a much better point to start making explorations, you could say, because then you're not exploring reality to find yourself, because you're always carrying yourself with you, right? You are the truth. And so looking outside for the truth is just the truth looking for itself. And so yeah, I would suggest find yourself first, and then you can do whatever you want. But each seeker's path will be unique, and it will necessarily contain a lot of different things before we actually realize that, oh, okay, I'm trying to find home. You know, I'm seeking because I'm feeling this separation from reality, or however you want to word it. I'm feeling like I'm lacking something. I'm lacking joy, I'm lacking love, I'm lacking whatever it is. And so by waking up first, then if you care to do anything anymore, then you can go explore, you know? So, but sure, I tried going out of body and did that successfully. I do it sometimes still, of course. But all of it were just different stages that eventually led me to realize who I am. So the most important thing for a seeker, I would say, is that as your path progresses, your spiritual knowledge database will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you could say your spiritual identity will get more and more solidified. And if you're searching for enlightenment, that thing itself is what separates you from waking up, because that's a bunch of thoughts that you believe in, right? So you're thinking that you're searching for something, but you can't search for this. You're already it. So you need to let go of your spiritual baggage. All teachings are just pointers. But what seekers does is that they cling to the pointers as if they're the truth. But the master isn't giving you religion or, you know, religious texts that is ultimate truth. He's simply saying, look at the moon. And then you need to look at the moon. You don't need to look at his finger, right? So yeah, there's a lot of complexities, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's nice to hear all of that. It's because when I ask, I also, you know, I still put myself in the shoes of who I was earlier, because somebody watching this and hearing this from you could maybe, I don't know, but there's no time wasted, because time is an illusion and everything is just play of consciousness, whatever. But I don't know, to me, the biggest suffering in my life was when I was searching for something, you know, the idea of enlightenment, and that's ungraspable. That's something that I did for most of my life, and I was like, what's, until I saw the futility of it, and then I said, what am I looking for? What am I really looking for that's not yet here? You know, but somebody hearing this can open something, like I it will, I don't know, maybe or maybe not, but
Yeah, what's important for the spiritual seeker looking for awakening, enlightenment, to realize is that it can't be talked about. It can't be understood with the mind. It does not change. It does not come. It does not go. And so everything that we believe about it is not it. And so you have to really realize deeply that if I am supposed to find this elusive thing, then I will find it right here, right now. And it's not in my thoughts. And so I will not find it here now in the thoughts that are bubbling up now. No, those are out of limits as well. I will simply have to find it here as what I already am. And so while you're sitting there and searching for what is already here, you know, futile as you are, then thoughts will bubble up and they will say, yeah, but this teacher said that enlightenment is, and then you just have to watch that thought pass. I'm still here. Yeah, but this teacher said, yeah, I'm still here. That's a thought. If it's here and if it's truth I'm looking for, it will not change. So I will look for that one thing that is never changing in my personal experience. And I will have to realize that whatever my mind thinks enlightenment is, it's not. However I think enlightenment will be, it's not. And so whatever I believe about it, it's not. Whatever I say about it, it's wrong. And so you're completely left right here, right now. And that's it. And then you just have to stay here and look. Who am I? What is experiencing this life right now? And don't look for an answer. Just look in the experience of being yourself. And so you need to cut everything and be here. That's where you will find it, whatever it is. Well, you will realize that you never lost it, but you know.
Yes. Exactly. It's like what I just nobody like what I was thinking was nobody it's all gonna happen. It's everything is happening exactly as it should. It's unfolding perfectly. Even the seeking stage, it's part of life's play of like I remember I wouldn't appreciate the realization without going through the illusion of being lost or being it's given me perspective that you appreciate. And I like what you said about this teacher said that, because that's how what happened to me. Let's say this teacher said that, and wow, that's profound. And then there's another teacher that said exactly the opposite of that. And then there's another teacher in the middle that opposed the two. And I was like, then what's the truth? It's everybody saying the same thing with different variation. And
yeah. So they're pointing at the same moon with different fingers. It's like each of us, we're a unique filter for the truth to pass through. And so each filter will cover a different aspect of truth, but none of them will be actual truth, right? So they will enlighten certain aspects of it, but it's simply still just symbolical. It's not actually the truth. Because that's only what you are. That the truth is what is already looking out from your eyes right now.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for is what you're looking from.
Yeah. Right.
That's why you keep chasing until you realize the knife cannot cut itself or the mirror cannot see itself, or the eyes cannot see itself, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's a very good point, because some people, there's no special to anyone, to anybody. Like I used to put people on a pedestal before. Like, let's say this person wrote a book, or this person, you mentioned pointer. It's just a pointer to like meditation. It's a tool to remove the false or the ignorance, because it's not it's I don't know, everything is a pointer to the moon. It's a very good metaphor.
And I think it's important to mention that there's no spiritual path that is wrong.
Yeah.
And you touched upon this already. And so no matter how long your path is, to say it like that, you can never go wrong, because since it's what you already are, you can never lose it. And every stage that you touch upon is correct for where you are right now. And every stage will lead you to the next stage. And so we have to kind of go through this crazy loop of things that we don't really need in order to recover ourselves. But what is important to know that you're always exactly where you need to be. And I would say that the most optimal way to search is to always follow what resonates with you, what feels right, right? And so religion might be a perfect place to start the spiritual journey, but when you get the sense that now it's time to move on, then you have to be brave enough to move on. And then you might happen to visit some really fluffy new age thing, where everything is so rosy and perfect and, full of flowers and beautiful. And you will stay there for a while growing further. And then at some point, you will get the sense again that now I need to move on from this, right? And so then you have to be brave again and let go of that thing, because it's so easy to get stuck in different ways to view the world and view existence. And so I've seen people in, Advaita Vedanta circles who are really close to enlightenment, you could say, because it touches upon the fundamental, but they're so hung up on what the teachings are saying that they're not able to let go of the teachings. And so the teachings themselves become what keeps them trapped. And so there comes a point where even if you are at that last point, you will have to let that go as well. And so you will always have to follow what is right. Does this resonate? Okay, and then I'll stay here until it doesn't resonate anymore, or until you know too much, and be really vigilant and be brave enough to move on.
Oh yeah, that's music to my ears, because it's recently I was just, when I had that glimpse of what you're saying, I just ended up laughing, because I'll tell you what happened. Like, some spontaneous thought comes up, like, what if hell is real, then hell is real because there's heaven. Sad is real because there's happiness. There's always the opposite, and it's always temporary. And whatever is temporary is not the truth. So whatever that scripture said was just an imagination. And if the experience is really hell, and then the hell has also heaven. The yin has the yang. It would not be existent without the opposite. And I am beyond the opposites, because I can perceive both. So if it's changing, those kinds of things happen. And then I really like what you said.
You could
You
say
will
that
let-
in the yin yang, the yin yang is like our experience. No matter in what reality we're in, it's always our experience, but we are the space that the yin yang is appearing within. So you're always, as you said, outside of it. Well, you're on all sides of it, and it is appearing inside you. But you are that which is unchanging, while the yin yang is just a chaotic soup, always, and that's all experience. Experience has to be like that. It has to be contrasts, because without contrasts, there is nothing. You can't have black without white, right? Happiness, sadness. But all of that is appearing within silence. And this silence is aware. And that's where truth lies.
Oh yes. That's nice. That's nice to contemplate upon, because words are just pointers. And I agree with you, when mental analysis it's just an endless maze. It will not, a question will birth another question. Why is this that? What is what is this Zen koan? What is this? What is this? What is that? What is that? And then the answer is also coming from the same thought that the question was birthed from. And
yeah,
it's really nice to know that there's tools like what you said. Meditation is a pointer that you can use or not, or but I really like what you said. You cannot go wrong with this. Nobody can go wrong with this, because wherever you find yourself, or whatever place you go in this present, your real nature is always there. It,
Yeah.
they call it the beloved, the unconditional love, but it's always there.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it is what everything is.
Hmm.
So wherever you are and whatever is happening, it's already that itself, which is all parts of it. It's both emptiness, everything, and something, right?
Hmm.
So at the same time, we are both no one, everyone, and someone. And so we cannot ever, like, you got people who are stuck in emptiness, who have realized emptiness,
Hmm.
and they say that there is nothing anywhere, right? Nothing exists. I don't exist. You don't exist. Nothing exists. And although this is true on the fundamental level, we cannot ever deny that all of this is happening, that we're having this experience. I have the experience of being this character while also being aware of being eternal nothing, and while being aware of being everything that arises, which arises within me. But it's all a part of me. So I can never separate myself from anything that is happening or any of my experiences, because it is me. And by me, I don't mean this person, I mean the awareness which is aware of it, right? Because that is aware of this person as well.
That's a good point. Because it's easy to bypass or to fall into another belief like nihilism, or like saying that life is a dream or life is an illusion, and then not, or do the neti, or or saying it does, but it's also existent at the same time. It's both existent and non-existent. I
Yeah.
don't know if I can ask that, how can, it's easy to fall into that trap, but how can you catch yourself when or what what is a pointer to not fall into it, like it because it can be a subtle belief, right? It can be a subtle unconscious religion without you
Mhm.
noticing it. You can just
Yeah.
keep telling others that there's no one here, there's no, I life is an illusion, and then you're not into the practicality of the conventional world.
Yeah. You mean how to avoid being trapped in emptiness?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's easy. If I can do this and I hear it, it means it's happening. And so even if it's, as Adyashanti says, emptiness dancing, it is dancing, right? I hear this. It's actually happening. And so, yes, life is a dream. Well, life isn't a dream, but experience is a dream. Life is consciousness, and all experience is our dreams. But we get so hung up on the dream part that it's not actually real, that just because it's not actually real, like it doesn't have any merit anymore. But that's not the point. The point is the interactions we're having here. Even if those interactions fundamentally is just the same one playing all sides of it, the interaction, the experience of the interaction is still real. The experience, not the stuff. The stuff is made of dream, is mental calculations, you could say. But you get stuck on the point that, oh, it's just a dream, so it's not real. Well, yeah, it's not real, but the experience is happening. And so the way to pull yourself out of being trapped in emptiness is to actually acknowledge that I am having this experience. I can hear this. That means it's happening, even if it's just a dream, even if it's not solid, even if it's just space. And really, there's not even space, because what I am is spaceless, thingless. It's absolutely nothing. but this is still happening. The experience is here. And so it's really easy to pull yourself out of being stuck in emptiness, but you need to, it's like when the seeker suddenly realizes emptiness, it becomes such a huge deal that it's easy to just be there, you could say, and not choose to focus back into life. Like they say in Zen, first there were mountains and trees, then there were no mountains and trees, and then there were mountains and trees again. And that's pointing at the journey from believing there's a physical reality, then realizing there's no physical reality, but then going back in and playing with it as if there's a physical reality.
Wow, yes. That's really nice pointer. It's really a good point where you can just do life without the neurosis, without thinking of free will, no free will, or life is a dream, life is not a dream. You're just straightforward into it. You're just ordinarily doing your whatever you're doing without the calculations.
Because it's only the intellect that has the need to try to figure everything out. And so have you heard about Jed McKenna?
Yeah, I got that.
Because he has a technique which is called spiritual autolysis, or autolysis. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but the point of that technique is to use your intellect to kill itself, you could say. And so you sit down and you try to write something true, something that is always true and does not change ever. And so you start by just writing anything that you think are true, right? Like trees are green and brown. And then you start picking apart, do I really know that trees are green and brown? What are trees? What's the color green? What's the color brown? You know, and so you need to have a pretty analytical mind to go through this, and you will have to have kind of the courage to actually see through everything you believe, because the point is to find that one thing that never changes, that is always the same. And so if trees are not here when I'm sleeping, then trees aren't fundamental truth. And so you can go through everything you believe, like I'm a human being on planet Earth. That's a really solid belief. That's probably one of the most solid beliefs. But can you find any time where you're not a human being on Earth? In deep sleep, where's the human being? When you're having a dream and you don't remember humanity at all, you're just somewhere else doing something else. Where's Earth? You know? Where's Leonard? It's gone. And so that's not fundamental truth. But what's always here is this one having the experience. And so this technique, together with meditation, was probably my two biggest or most powerful techniques that finally helped me over the edge, you could say, back in the days. And so I would suggest that if you have really sticky beliefs that just won't die, then sit down and try to write them out. How am I sure that this belief is actually true? Right? And so you use the mind as a tool to kill itself. And then you couple that with the silence of meditation. So in meditation, you are tasting what you are being what you are, but then there might well up thoughts that you still believe in. And then you take that to the notepad and you try to write out if that's actually true. And the way to find out whether it is actually true is to ask, is this always true? Has it ever changed? Was there a time when this was not? Will there be a time when this is not anymore? And if either of those are yes, then it's not fundamental truth.
Mm. Ah, yes.
So that's a powerful technique.
Huh, that's nice. You actually detailed the Jed McKenna spiritual autolysis, because I read the book, but not the entirety of it. But that's how you were able to detail it, how to actually do it in
Yeah.
as a technique. It's actually, yeah, writing it, and he said writing it is more effective than just thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Because when you write it, it becomes more real. It's standing right there on the paper. And so I think that during my 5 obsessive years of seeking before I woke up, uh, the last 2 years I was doing this while meditating, and I think I wrote something like 150 pages. I wrote out everything I believed, and saw through it. I deleted everything because I realized I don't know this. And so, the last page was something like, I don't know anything. The only thing I know is that something is having this experience. I didn't know what that thing was. I just know that there is something that is experiencing this. Because I saw that all my knowledge were dependent upon itself. So you can't have something mean anything without something else contrasting it or putting it into a system. And so all knowledge has to be dependent upon each other to make sense. And so when you pull apart all of this, then it just evaporates. But you really have to do it to realize it for yourself. But it's a really, really powerful technique if it fits you, because obviously this isn't a technique that will fit everyone. But meditation is something that will fit everyone. But I thought I'd mention it because it's really, yeah, it's a great technique.
I have a question about that. I'll just my dog is
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if, because a lot of people who read Jed McKenna, there's I've read like, because he's inducing some things to make you think the way you didn't think before, or the way you didn't see things before. Like, did you have that existential, I don't think crisis, or that thing of the void, what do you call that, that feeling of you don't you your existence, like you question it, like, then if I am nothing, then, like, that kind of existential dread. Oh, I don't know, after that, because he actually destroyed every idea you have about what you think life is, or what you think your
what you think truth is.
Yeah.
So that's very powerful about that book, or those 3 books, is that he makes it really clear that it's either truth or untruth. It's true or not. That's how easy it is. And anything in existence is untrue except for that one truth. And so this is powerful to get you to realize nothingness, right? And then when you realize nothingness, then you got to come back again and not get stuck. But he's very powerful for someone at that place on their journey. Like, all teachings will hit seekers on different stages of their path, right? And so someone like, I don't know, Adyashanti or Eckhart Tolle, or they might be really powerful to get you to silence, but they won't necessarily help you to realize that all your thoughts are bullshit, even though they're saying it, but they're not saying it so forcefully. While Jed McKenna is really, he just cuts to the bone, right? And so he's good for seekers who have come further, I'd say, while most teachers are better for beginning seekers.
That's right. Yeah, I guess my last question is, there's, because this is my take on it. I think there's no one size fits all to realizing, to waking up
Right.
or some, but there's a lot I've read about desirelessness, or there's no more fear. Like the fear has completely gone, or there's no more desire, no sexual desire, no desire for whatever. But in from this vantage point, as long as there's human experience, there's there's an embodiment of this body, or there's still desires and there's still fear. Like, I what can you say about that? But I don't know. Maybe from your experience,
Yeah.
can you really say you have zero fear and zero, or something?
Okay, let me put it like this. Even though you wake up and you live your life from the source, as the source, you are still playing this game, and the character still has the same personality. The character still has the same things it likes and it doesn't like. Like, I love pizza, but I hate sushi, you know? And so that remains the same. But you could say fear evaporates, because when you realize that you are everything that exists, and you will definitely survive that thing that is called death. Actually, there is no death. You die every time you go to bed and fall asleep, and then you reawaken in some dream, and then you die again and you wake up here. And so all is just a flow of consciousness. And so deep-seated fear is gone. There is no fear of death anymore. But you still might get anxious for things that happens. Your pulse might start rising a little, and you still have like this, it's biology as well. You can't bypass biology. If you see a pretty woman, you might see her, you recognize that you're looking at a pretty woman, right? Because it's a part of the animal part. And so even though you're not controlled by your desires, they will still arise in the animal part of you. And so this is about embracing all of reality. But you could say that the further you are along, the longer it is since you woke up, and the deeper you are rooted in consciousness, the less all of these things matter anymore. And I think a lot of teachers are saying it like this just to make a point, right? And so take Osho, for example. I think Osho was really cool.
Yes.
And he was actually made it seem like he was completely beyond everything, right? And probably he might have been, but I'm sure that if you came running toward him with a chainsaw, there will be something in his animal that a fear will spike just because of what's happening, right? Although he isn't actually afraid as consciousness, but you can't really separate anything. It's all one thing. But as time goes, it will lower. You will become more or less susceptible to things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the day I truly woke up and had my, you could say, last awakening, that emptied out most.
Mm.
But because I'm still playing this character, the biology is still intact, you could say, even though I see through it and don't believe it anymore.
Ah, that's nice. It's like, William Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, men and women merely players. So it's like you see the script. You don't believe that you're the character. You're playing a role. Yeah. Well, I asked that because I noticed in my experience, because I have anxiety attacks in the past, social anxiety and anxiety problems that gotten me to therapy.
Yeah.
But when these things dawned, I can notice anxiety face to face, like the word anxiety, and I feel it, but it doesn't stick. It arises and then it goes, and then it arises and it goes. It's not like condition that I used to have. It's something that maybe the perspective has widened. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe
And I would say that having anxiety or having pain, all of these things in the human experience which we do not like, which brings suffering, all those things are secretly a gift because they make us seek away from them, seek to find something beyond the pain, beyond the anguish of living here, you know, that happens. And so, but once you wake up, it doesn't mean that you don't experience pain anymore. You still, if you cut your finger, you will still have the pain, but there won't be any suffering. Because suffering isn't the pain. Suffering is me not wanting it to be like that. When I try to get away from it, that's where the suffering is created. But when I'm simply accepting it, it's just what is. Now there's pain here. Then there's no suffering because you accept it totally. And so pain will arise, but you won't suffer.
Oh.
But suffering will lead you to search out of it before you wake up. And so it's a powerful motivator to wake up.
Yes, I agree. It's like last year I had like relating to what you're saying, I had anxiety, a huge one. There's an instance where the anxiety rose to its peak, and then I just said, I am anxiety. I'm not a friend today. I'm not a son today. I'm not anybody today. I'm just anxiety. And when I said that,
Yeah.
it's like a visitor in your house, and then it leaves because I'm not like resisting it. I shouldn't be anxious right now. I shouldn't be feeling
Exactly.
this. It's just the surrender to the pain or to the feeling without any story wrapped around it.
Yeah. And then your suffering wasn't there. It was just pure anxiety. But you didn't suffer, right?
Ah, yes. Exactly. Oh wow. You there's a lot of gems in this in this conversation. Maybe the last thing is, I don't know if maybe you can just share how people can connect with you, maybe your channel. I know you have your book and your course, and anything that can make people connect to your contents, so that I'm sure it's going to be a helpful pointer. Yeah.
Then I would say that if what I'm saying is resonating, and you're at a place right now where everything I'm saying, or most of what I'm saying, is sounds true and it feels right, then come join me. You could say, come look at my videos on YouTube, and you'll find me by searching for Online Meditation Center. And my website is onlinemeditationcenter.com. And so if what I'm saying resonates, then feel free to check me out. And I'm always here answering questions if people are having questions. So I'm trying to be available whenever that happens. And as long as I'm not getting too big, I'll still be able to answer every question.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, your contents have helped me a lot, and it's really, I don't know. This is just a short sharing, but when I look back at the journey, it wasn't me doing it. Like it was. I feel like my theory. It's just a theory because it's an idea. It was placed on the path. And then like the Jed McKenna book, somebody just gave it to me. And then without me like searching for Jed, I don't even know Jed. But when somebody just sent it to me, I said this, and then I scrolled through YouTube, and then I clicked your video, and then and I feel like it's unfolding, but it's not special. I mean, it some people's path maybe have different unfolding, but I like what you said earlier. Nobody can go wrong with this. It's all
You
it's
you
all
will get what you need where you are, you could say. Life will organize it so that it fits you perfectly where you are. That's my experience, at least.
yeah.
So it's like they say in Zen again, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm.
It's that simple. It seems that simple
Yeah.
often.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and that when the student is fully ready, the teacher disappears.
Yeah,
That's right. Oh, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's really a
likewise.
free-flowing harmony. I hope the people who resonate with this can reach you or however it unfolds.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a good day, man.
Yeah, you too, man.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.